Hello and thanks for joining us. This is the Signature Show, and I am VINMARTIN, OBIORA, ILO. My guest today is a former senator. He is someone who is doing his best to bring change in the southern part of Nigeria. He is an academic and also, by the grace of God today, the executive governor of Cross River State. My pleasure to welcome Professor Ben AYADE.
Thank you.
Your Excellency, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Well, in another month, it will be 3 years that you've been governor of Cross River State. Can you take me through the last 3 years? What has it been like? What are the challenges? And what have you been able to do in these past 3 years?
Okay, let me just take you back to memory lane. 3 years ago, we had ourselves involved in an election seeking to run the affairs of my beloved state, Cross River State. On assumption of office, we had a very long-standing issues of pre-election matters extending to election matters and getting up to the Supreme Court. It took 1.5 years to get out of the Supreme Court. Shortly after just getting out of the Supreme Court, election timetable for the next set of elections came. And that's the fate, the banality of the Nigerian politics and what Nigerian politicians and indeed governors face. A challenge of dealing with the politics, the engineering of it, the sociology of it, and the challenges of delivering the dividends of democracy. So that complex situation creates a challenge for even the best of friends. There's no governor who will be willingly want to be in office and do so abysmally poor that he will find himself unelectable. And therefore, circumstances beyond their carrying capacity gives varying impressions of governors. But taking my own circumstance into classical analysis, I came very prepared because I'm conscious that I come from a business background, having run my own private businesses to huge success at a very tender age of 23. I also come from the background of academics, having risen to the rank of a professor. I come with a great understanding of the law as a barrister and a senator of the Federal Republic. I came properly equipped with clear understanding of the challenges of the office of governor of Cross River State. I was also born into a very humble background, so I've had a fair experience of childhood poverty, but I also had early wealth. At 23, I could count in millions and millions, and at then almost with a PhD to go with. So clearly, I found myself properly well-shaped and sharpened for the job. But I do understand from business perspective that until government has business to do with business, in sluggish and third world economies, poverty will continue to be our lot. Unfortunately, the process of electing somebody into the office of governor, president, or any other elective office comes through from the generic support from the entire populace, sensitive or insensitive, informed or not informed. And therefore, the cost of running a political system is very huge. Normally, the world-class model of true freedom is when every single citizen contributes to the decision of who becomes his governor, who governs him, which structure of governance that he will so choose. That's the best model, which is the American model. Unfortunately, a third world country like Nigeria chooses the most sophisticated model of governance. So you are beset with that challenge of sustaining governance with an intention to win an election, while also trying to change the course of the fate of your people. So what becomes your critical target? Seeking re-election or seeking to bring true value? When you seek to bring true value, you will go for long-term major projects that can truly, truly effect a change. But time beguiles. 1.5 years into political struggles in the court and then faced with another election, sometimes you have the agony of just doing all you can just to see how you win another election. And so Nigeria has also created a cycle where politicians go into politics for the sake of winning an election and win another election and transferring to another person and on, without a real focus on the primary purpose of the whole political process: service to humanity, service to your people, bringing true governance and changing their fate. So in Cross River State, having understood these complex relationships, it became clear to me that I needed to depart completely from the tradition. And so I decided to think outside the box and created a vision, a deep vision on decoupling my state from its continuous dependence on federal allocation. Recognizing Cross River's circumstance as being particularly sympathetic, the melancholy, the agony, and the lamentation of my people arose from the loss of our 76 oil wells, exacerbated by even the loss of our land. And so here you have a people who have been reduced to want in body, spirit, and in soul. Most people have lost their self-esteem on account of the abuse by the federal government of Nigeria. Where such ceding of our land and indeed our oil wells did not draw strength from law. Having gone to all levels to seek a reversal of all of this that have failed, and I came in at that time where the government became that bedeviled with this challenge, it was my responsibility as academician, businessman, and the chief executive of the state to create a new vista of opportunity and create a horizon of hope, and ensuring consistent with my inaugural statement that on no account will a child born out from parents or indigents or residents of Cross River should go to bed hungry on account of lack of food. And that if you must sweat, you must be sweating out of pleasure, not out of toil. That became the philosophy that underpinned my governance. Now, to achieve all of that, in the frightening face of the dwindling income and the challenge of my state, required me to have a bigger heart. Because if I'm driven by the aspirations that besets me in relationship with the income pattern, I will simply be struggling to make a living. So constructing a new financial solution that can address on a short term, medium, and long term the challenges of my people, I needed to think deep. In the process, I came up with a clear understanding that I needed to industrialize Cross River State. I needed to take advantage of the maritime corridors that we enjoy as a state to build a deep sea port. And so I set on a very long agenda, a cumulative cost of over ₦1 trillion, with a state whose revenue cannot sustain that. So here was I, punching beyond the weight. So punching beyond my weight obviously means that I must have an additional strength. And that additional strength, which I don't have in financial terms, we decided to fill with the intellect. And so the philosophy that wherever money cannot carry you, the intellect can take you over. And so we decided to engage the best of our brains to ensure that we bring value to our people. And so to achieve this, I decided to expand government. Today, I'm the largest employer of labor at state level because I have over 4,000 appointees, so many agencies created. Now, I did that not because I have enough, but because I cared enough. What was the idea? The idea was to expand government, reduce social tension, so they can allow me the social peace for me to engineer a new financial solution to our problems. Having been a state that has been dependent on oil wells, dependent on oil allocation, and all of that, 13% derivation, NDDC support, and all of this gone, it was clear that I came in at a time where if I didn't do something extraordinary, I definitely won't be able to pay salaries. Calabar is known traditionally as the cleanest state in Nigeria, the cleanest capital in Nigeria. I needed to sustain that. I needed to make sure that the rapid population, because our population demography tends to tilt a lot in favor of the young people. About 65% of our population are young people, from about 4 million people. So obviously I needed to put jobs, put food on the table. So my first 2 years was to put food on the table of every Cross Riverian. So while they go to sleep, I know no sleep, in that I guarantee the steady flow of salary. So even before the days of Paris Club, Cross River State was known to be the only state that consistently paid salary before the 25th of the month. That was because I know that Section 14, subsection 2 of our Constitution is very clear. The primary purpose of government is the welfare and security of the citizens. And so there is no amount of infrastructural development or industrialization that will make sense when your people go to bed on hungry stomach. And so that was that expansion of government. Of course, bringing young ebullient hands into government created a new ebuloscopy and vitality. So that level of kinematic energy was all put to bear to see how we can advance the cause of the state. In the process, we came up with very creative and innovative ideas. So we started Calafam, production of pharmaceutical drugs to deal with our health insurance program. We thought of the garment factory, which is a massive job employment machinery through which we can take a lot of our widows in particular into the job value chain. We started the Rice City to produce seeds and seedlings. And that's the only one and the biggest in Africa, and perhaps the best in the world, because I travel around the world to look at what we have. But as I was setting up these industries, it's obviously that I needed power. So I started a 21 megawatts power plant, which is also months away from commissioning. And we realized truly that if you take a country like Germany, where about 80 million bananas are consumed in a day, and we knew that we had the opportunity to take advantage of banana export, particularly under the Buhari administration, where the diversification program was based on agri-based diversification. So it was obvious that if I took the agri value chain as an alternative to the oil and gas, I could get a premium out of it. So our huge investment in banana plantation in Odopani, which are now due for harvest by September, with a partnership with San Carlos of Mexico, exporting our banana as our major off-taker, will bring in a dollar inflow that can allow us aspire to our dreams of building our deep sea port and superhighway. Of course, in concomitance with the cocoa processing plant set up in Ikom and the rice mill, the vitaminized rice mill in Ogoja. In that perspective, it was clear that even as you think of building the superhighway and the deep sea port, the attendant deep sea port, it was clear that you needed to provide an outbound cargo to support the deep sea port. So envisioning a deep sea port already in 3 years from here, I started the process of its registration approvals. And so today, as I speak with you, we have the EIA approval for both the deep sea port and the superhighway. The superhighway has had all its initial route sourcing design completed by China Roads Company. And today, we have the deep sea port fully ready to start construction. Preliminary construction works have started. Land reclamation works ongoing. Preliminary dredging ongoing, right on site, and I'm sure my team will take you there. And on the superhighway, we've completed the design, we've completed the debushing. Earthworks will commence 2 weeks from now. Contractor fully ready on ground to commence. I think the picture, therefore, is that if Nigeria must really do well, there's obviously a need for some of the powers vested on the federal government to be reversed to the states. Because part of the delay I've had in getting this project on was the federal government taking Cross River State to court for commencing work without some, basically EIA approvals. EIA by law says that once you have commenced and registered the EIA and have collected your dry and wet season samples, you can commence work. Once you start work without a formal approval of certification, the penalty is 1 million. And as a lawyer, I understood that I didn't contravene the law. And as a professor of science, I was conscious that I've met all the scientific requirements for a proper work to be done. So basically, that's where we are. So the state has a clear picture: industrialization, developing our maritime corridor, and creating a gateway to northern Nigeria to allow the evacuation of solid minerals and all the agricultural wealth of the northern part of Nigeria, to use the Bakassi Deep Sea Port as its exit window and a major new gateway to Nigeria.
You know, from what you have said, you seem not to be caught in the web of what I call short-term Nigeria, where everyone is thinking on the short term. But that has also brought some criticism for you. Why are you not addressing the short roads, the water challenges immediately? You're focused on the long term, kind of leaving a legacy for the future generations. What does it worry you when people say, oh, he's paying attention, a lot of attention on those big projects and probably not paying as much attention to the small projects?
Oh, no. First, there is no such comment. I think they're overwhelmed by the enormity and the size, capacity, and the cost implications of some of my very big projects. This has not closed our eyes to the smaller projects. Today, we have some very complex digital rigs that are drilling and providing rural water supply across the 3 senatorial districts of the state. We are massively doing a lot of rural roads. In Iyala alone, I've done 42 rural roads. In Obanepo, about 38. We have a full team for urban renewal who are right in the side doing roads, up to even farm roads. That is going on, but that is nothing in the face and eyes and considerations of the massive projects I'm embarking on. It's like you have a small dog and you have an elephant. Nobody will notice that you have a dog because the elephant is so humongous. That's what has happened. But again, sometimes it also looks like I'm excited by the kinetics of my youth and the vitality of my strength. But that's not the case. I'm a very old head on young shoulders. And so I can provide the enthusiasm of a child, yet celebrate the wisdom of a 60-year. And so I can afford to think so big with an empty pocket because I have an intellectual capacity to fill the space. That's what is on us. It's mistaken for me to be over-ambitious. Why would AYADE want to build a deep sea port that even big states could not? Why would AYADE contemplate a 148 kilometers dual carriage road when Lagos-Ibadan has been there in the last 20 years? Federal government cannot dualize and complete. But go and see, AYADE has finished the entire earthworks for a 148 kilometer dual carriage road without making noise about it. There is no state, as we speak today, that have such a huge project. I'm opening brand new roads. The superhighway is a brand new road. It's never existed. I'm not working on an existing road. It's a brand new road. It's never happened for a long time in Nigerian history. But let me just tell you, you see, the problem is that intellectuals have never had space in government because there is a feeling, there is this absolute sarcasm that it belongs to the people who are so hardened. But I've been a very refined gentleman in politics. And if you ask everybody, my slogan is politics with ethics. I think God has been fair to me. I have good education, I have good exposure, I have early wealth, I've got everything. Good family. The least I can do is to put back to society. And because before I got to where I am today, it was my prayer with God. Give me wealth, give me opportunity, let me serve you. And so for me, this is the time to pay back for all that God has done for me. At this point, even I cease to be governor today, I have met the peak of my dream. At the age of 12, I had wished that I should be professor. I had wished that I should be governor. Senator came in, extreme wealth came in the process, beyond what I asked for. And so God has been fair enough. I have never been sick, strong in all aspects of me. And I just find joy in taking more than I can chew. And you know what in life? Everything appears impossible until you look the other way. Because sometimes people see more of the problem than thinking around the solution. Sometimes people try to look so much before they leap. They never leap. But when you leap before you look, you become more careful. When you see with your eyes, you see too short because you have physical impairments. But when you see from your heart because you truly care, your vision will not be impaired because your aspiration is spiritual and celestial. And it is that that drives me. That feeling that that little young man, AYADE, born from a very humble background, have risen to the rank and processor and the position of governor. What's the example that I need to show? There's been a lot of shame on a black man. Nigeria is the only country that the black world is looking up to. The whole world thinks that Nigeria can take the black man out of the woods. But today, black is no longer a color. It's an identity. Identity of poverty. Identity of people who think from the stomach. Only think about what their interest is. What's their profit? What's their gain? That a black man today in the entire Africa, black Africa, cannot manufacture a bicycle. They must have a foreign input. That you buy a vehicle and you need a spare part, you have to still order the part. No furnace is working. No fabrications. That a black man is still living at that primordial level where you plug your mango and sell it as mango without bringing value. You dig out your crude oil, you sell it as crude. You go back and import refined product. You have your granite, you sell it out and you go back and import granite oil. That is the bane of the black man. That is the shame of the black man. And it is that even good researchers, even of African origin, seem to have a critical objection to the black man and think that perhaps our fault was the architecture of the black man. the physical design of a black man with big fat nose and big fingers, heavy claws just to grab and consume beyond their capacity. While a white man has a small, narrow nose to take only the little amount of oxygen that he needs. The black man has a big one to take much more than he consumes. That's why we eat until we bloat, because we indulge. This critique have well documented by African writers themselves. So you can see that we have reached a point where even the black man doubts himself. That's the shame that we as young academics who are now in power are trying to effect a new leadership and create a new change and thought perception about what a black man is. Because indeed we have good story about black men who have done great inventions. In the last couple of years, there's been no impotence ascribed to a black man, particularly of the African descent, based in Africa. So it shows that for this long, Africa have never worked, Africa have never researched. Now, so when you look at the works of Wationgo Ngugi, Leopold Sedar Senghor, Professor Ali Mazrui, and the likes, who have written so much on African literature and heritage, it is obvious that Africa is setting for self-destruct until we change the system of governance that we run, that picks from the world-class democracy to run the third-class backward Africa, until we realize that the African traditional system worked more. I just came back from China, and here China was doing a presidential election, and I didn't know that there was an election, except that I was visiting a colleague of mine, the governor of Shanxi province, who said, oh, sorry, we are here to elect a new president. And it was done, gone. 1 year to the election in Nigeria is steam already. So we live for politics. And I walk into big corporations and seeking to do presentations to see how I can bring value to my state. And I find a young man walk up to me on the table as the MD of the corporation, the general manager of a corporation, at 25, at 28. Same people, same age in my old country will be busy on social media, talking politics, abusing people in power, and losing everything that Africa represents, ethics and morality. So it's a shame. And unfortunately, I get emotional when I discuss this topic, because unfortunately, Nigeria has become a political country. Nothing else. After an election, another election starts. How can this nation move? Today, there is nobody in this country that knows truly the amount of crude oil being produced in Nigeria. We are at the mercy of the overseas companies. The OIC dictates to you how much they are producing and dictates to you what is the production cost. And so we sit back at the peak of the value of our oil without a full understanding of its utility. In the first instance, why do you want to diversify from oil when the true value chain of oil has not been exploited? Assuming we even have refineries that work. Today we only dig out the crude oil and export crude oil. But what would have had the real money would have been if we had gone to the point of refining and getting the byproducts. One of my richest friends that I've ever had in life, he's just into packaging, using the byproducts of hydrocarbon to produce packaging materials, polyethylene and all that. Today, nanotechnology has taken over, and so the byproducts of hydrocarbon is used for nanotechnology, fertilizer. You have countries in Eastern Africa who are doing much better than we are, because gradually they are learning from the mistakes of their past to begin to build a new future. But we are not learning. Even the Civil War did not teach us any lesson. Qatar is the largest exporter of ammonia. What is ammonia? It's a byproduct or a derivative of hydrocarbon. Yet, we need ammonia to be able to produce our fertilizers. So, here we are, with such vast resources, still waiting. In Cross River State, we have a lot of hydrocarbon, but we can't exploit because we need the discretionary approval of the federal government, or we have to go through a proper bidding process, a long process to get federal government approval to allow us to exploit the natural wealth of the state. All this would have been saved if we had a system that allows us the luxury of taking full utility and advantage of what we've got for the benefit of us all, and only contribute to the center, to a quota that allows every state an opportunity to survive. I'm opposed to a restructuring of government that denies a part of the country the opportunity to live a healthy life. And therefore, restructuring that creates opportunity for the full exploitation of the potentials of each state, yet equilibrating it by creating opportunities for your sister state, who is not that endowed, to also live with independent ease. That's the restructuring that I support. That balances between states that have natural wealth and that don't have, but allow those that have to actually have the opportunity to exploit it to the fullest, yet contributing and compensating sufficiently to the center.
Okay, well, I'm sure we're going to talk more about restructuring and what your position is on that. But let me go back. You know, a lot of people say you're daring, and I'm going to ask, when you have all these big projects, and you just explained to me about your financial profile as a state, how do you intend to get money for these projects? Or are you going to, as they say, rope in future generations into death? How do you want to do it?
In the first instance, Cross River State is one of those states that is not allowed to borrow, because when I came into office, 3 states out of this federation were classified as having borrowed beyond their repayment capacity. So I'm not...
So you can't borrow?
I cannot borrow, and I've not borrowed since I've been governor. I've only had bridge financing, and I've never ever borrowed beyond a recycling of 1 month. So as I speak, Cross River State under my governance is not owing.
So how do you intend to fund this
Because
project?
Africans only think that projects can only be done with money. And every time you reduce your ambition to money, you will fail. Where is the provision for the intellect? What is the provision for my education? What is the provision for my creativity? What is the provision for God? What is the provision for the aspiration? You don't factor them. Because by golden fleece, they are not physical. But you don't appreciate them. There are 42 ways of doing business without money. I have a master's in business administration. With 7 degrees to my kitty, I should be smart enough that when I make a pronouncement, I must have thought it out properly before doing so. I just don't want to go to my records. You would have seen that I have driven my small private business to a huge empire with patents to support me. Now, how am I going to achieve all of this? I have worked it out completely. And I will just take the superhighway, just to give you an illustration that can drive how the intellect can make up for money. The superhighway is 275 kilometers, and I'm doing 6 lanes, brand new road. It's estimated to cost about 1.2 trillion. Obviously, that's not the kind of project Cross River State can envision to handle. But Cross River State decided to set up an SPV. I decided to do the debushing and design by direct SPV of government. I got the job, which was billed initially for 65 billion, done under 800 million. So, design and route setting completed. Preliminary earthworks done. Then I moved to the phase of contracting. But in contracting, it was obvious that I cannot contract without a corresponding income to pay. So I decided to split the job into the entire road into tranche of 50 kilometers, and asking for institutional investors to take 50 kilometers, do it and toll it, and collect your money. Now I have investors falling over me, willing to put their money to do just a 50 kilometers and get their toll gate and have a 35 years tenure to recover their investment. 50 kilometers to a big company mean little or nothing. More so that the design has been completed, the route has been cleared, so there are no trees standing on the superhighway as we speak now. It's just to move in and do the earthworks and do your asphalting. So You see, that's creativity. So this mighty big money, this big superhighway that looks impossible because you are calculating per contract. We're doing dredging. The dredging cost for the deep sea port, the preliminary dredging is 88 billion. Cross River State won't have 88 billion. So we partner with a company out of China who's brought in a dredger in partnership with an understanding that they will have a skin in the game. Today, dredging work is going on. It's international exposure where there is a potential and there is a technology. Their marriage does not require money as a catalyst. It's we Africans that have allowed people to fool us. Why would somebody who realizes that he's a construction company based out of China or based out of Turkey or India where there's saturated competition and you are given opportunity to do 50 kilometers of road and in perpetuity earn money, why would he ask you to pay him to get that job done? But because we have cheapened ourselves and have cheapened our value, when any colored skin comes to Africa, he talks contract. When they go to other countries, they talk investment. So if we look at our last advert that we just did for hospitals, we only advertise for investors. Because if you have a discerning eye, you will know when an opportunity is great. I visited a company that is into tuna fish and exporting tuna fish. And they brought out a map. The Gulf of Guinea is awash with tuna fish. We don't have any major fishing trolley in Nigeria. Not one. The few that come are fugitive Indians that are fishing in our waters.
Illegally.
Illegally. And so here you have a great potential waiting. I don't want to take my time to go through these things that hurt my soul. But I just think that if God allows, and I know God sees my heart, let him allow me the fullness of time. And you will see the manifestation of the aspirations that I have come to know that money is the greatest impediment to growth. Anytime you have so much money, you have massive waste. Anytime you have very little, you have so much value. So much is less.
Your Excellency, how do you intend to make those that you lead buy into this vision? Because sometimes they don't seem to understand what you're doing. How do you get a buy-in into this big dream that you have?
They are, because they listen to me. I speak to them quite often. We're starting a youth summit soon. Then we have the women's wing. That I speak to their soul. They know what we earn. Look, have you not asked yourself a question? How come Cross River State government has never owed salary for one day, including pension? I've just approved the payment of 2014 gratuity. I know where we were. You came in and you made a very clean city. You know what it cost. Before now, all we do is traditionally contract it out. But we decided, okay, we're going to cut the cost of contracting, but this government is going to get most of the equipment. Government is not going to manage those equipment. Government is going to give them to professional third parties. It's creativity, and they see it work. So today we have only young people in my government. So they are spiritually attuned, and they have come to see me as a model. So for them to buy into the dream, they see, they feel it, they are seeing the change. Please ask my Office of Statistics to give you information about Cross River State in terms of number of marriages, in terms of voluntary payment of school fees, in terms of payment of health bills. You can see that everything has gone up. We have moved from number 27 in NECO performance to number 2 in the country. We've just started yesterday a teachers' continuous training college where we focus on training teachers who will prepare teachers who will teach our students to prepare for NECO and for WAEC. So there's creativity. And of course, we are blessed with the fact that I'm a professor and my deputy governor is a professor. The first, perhaps, the only state in Africa where both deputy governor and governor are professors. So we can't afford to fail. We have to lead with intellectual wealth, which is a value addition that is hardly recognized in government. Because what you measure are the tangibles, physical cash. That's the difference. So I have a cult followership. That's why you won't see me desperate. You won't see me doing politics. Because I think that's what's really destroying Africa. Secession. The politics is over-dramatized. It looks like we live for politics. Instead of using politics to take us to an end, it has become the means and an end itself.
Let's look at some specific projects. One that I understand is very dear to your heart is the state insurance program. And I ask, what informed your decision to introduce this insurance program for the people of Cross River State?
Very simple. Again, when you get back to your constitution, the welfare of your citizenry is the primary purpose. What's welfare without the health of your people? Particularly when you know for no fault of theirs. Young men are out of school and they have no jobs. It's no fault of theirs. It's the responsibility of society, which means it falls on government, which is what is provided in our constitution. So my decision to provide an insurance cover, to cover only, not for just those who can pay their insurance, not just for the low-income earners, but for the no-income. A no-income earner is somebody who has a zero income. Imagine a woman of 85 years, spent, a widow perhaps without a child, sits in a shanty house without a source of livelihood, without an income, and she's sick. Where does she get medication from? And you call yourself a governor? You call yourself that you have a human heart? And during campaigns, you see these situations for yourselves. There's a particular woman, and I can't forget. That's how I started the food program when I was a senator. To take food to every doorstep of any person who can fish no more. Yes, it's good to teach people how to fish. But when a person has passed the age where he can fish, you have to give him fish. So when you see the aged who don't have loved ones, it's the responsibility of government to put food on their table. And so it is against that background that I knew clearly it's the responsibility of government to take care of those aged who don't have loved ones that will take care of their bills. So I needed to create an insurance program that catered to those who have zero income. That was how I came with this insurance program, which was sent to the House as an insurance program, Cross River State Insurance Program. But because of its novelty, the House of Assembly rechristened it AYADE Care. Because truly, they thought that was great thought. And now, for me to have the insurance program work, I needed to have a steady supply of drugs. And as a professor of toxicology, with advanced knowledge of medicine, with a wife who is a medical doctor, practiced both in Nigeria and the UK, we were equipped to be able to advance a solution by having our own pharmaceutical outlet. And I have a young doctor who is a commissioner of health, very well traveled, exposed, and knowledgeable with so much energy. And we put all of this together with young people in government doing their very best to see that the AYADE Care works. So I have an insurance expert like Godi Yala, and I have a team that everybody's passion is to see that this works. Today, our AYADE Care has become the model. Indeed, while I was shopping to see how I can get insurance support, I ran into people who said, look, we have been hearing of insurance program. We have never heard of insurance for somebody who earns zero income, who will also be captured in the entire health value chain. And I think the creativity and the enthusiasm arose from my campaigns and understanding that there's far much more poverty than we think.
So how is it going to work? What's the idea? How are people going to participate?
Very simple. Every Cross Riverian and every resident in Cross River State, once you have a tax payment age, once you have a means of income, you have a duty to contribute only 1,000 naira in a month. Indeed, it's been passed into law. If you're a Cross Riverian and you're living in America, you have committed a crime if you have not sent 1,000 naira home. You cannot run an election out of Cross River State to represent Cross River State if you have not paid your 1,000 naira every month from when that law bill was signed into law. And so it is hoped that the healthy than the wealthy will provide that 1,000 per month to attend to the sick, the weak, and the poor. So if you look at 4 million people with a possibility that only 1 million will be able to honor this legal obligation, then we'll be making 1 billion every month. 1 billion just fed into the health sector should go a long way. So we started expanding and improving our primary healthcare systems that will serve as the gateway that allows you a referral to our referral hospital, 1 each senatorial district, and 3 mobile hospitals, so that we can take the health service to your doorstep. And that's why we introduced the home care, AYADE home care. Because truly, modern medicine, a sick person doesn't go to the doctor should come to the sick person. And also, ontologically, that is African. And so we're changing the storyline. But the mere fact that every person, before you come onto this chain, we have an identity management system that have all your data on the chip. So that your chip allows your children to enroll in school, allows you access to public utilities and facilities, allows you opportunity for your child to benefit from the state scholarship program, and allows you to benefit also from the health insurance program. So take, for example, the civil servants. Their own payment, that 1,000 monthly, will be deducted at source. For those that are not in the formal sector, that are caught in the tax net outside the traditional system, we also have a mechanism that will enforce the law by ensuring that all of those contribute their 1,000. But look at it, you don't even need an enforcement. You pay 1,000 naira a month. In 1 year, you have only 12,000 naira, but it can allow you the luxury of having the most complex surgery. It can allow you to have an organ transplant as part of the benefits of being in this program. And remember, because it's not designed to make money, you have a lot of international windows through which donors are coming to support. So we look forward to having very healthy international support, including doctors with a boundary. We just had an offer from Canada, about 5 volunteer doctors who will be joining the AYADE care to provide services for free. Again, this is drawn also from my experience as a senator when I started a massive medical outreach, bringing doctors from out of America. And I saw thousands and thousands of people with ailments that are not known to man, that people die with, suffocated because the shame of even coming out doesn't allow them. They don't even have the money. Some of these places are hard to reach, so you can't get there. Not even a Kenu can. And people live in such subhuman condition, and you call yourself a governor? No. That's why you don't see even a wristwatch on me. Because I will spend that time, use that money, and see how I can support. I've had a lot of gifts as wristwatches. Perhaps I may use for a day or two, but definitely it has to be sold to support humanity. Because truly, when you pursue this non-financial rewards course, God has a way. If you focus on money, you will never get it. If you focus on value and Godhead, money will just come naturally.
Okay. You know, good idea, but have you made provisions? What kind of provisions have you put in place? For instance, to see that AYADE care kicks off quickly. What kind of money have we made available to the agencies that are going to run it? The primary health agency, organizations like SACA, and a number of them. What have you provided to make sure it kicks off?
Well, we have a seed fund, and we had a partnership with Union Bank. The discussion that we've had with Union Bank, they came hand-holding GE to come to speak with us on the possibility of supporting us through this process. Without them asking, and I'm sure they're here, they can bear me witness, and they say, look, they can reach an arrangement where GE will bring in the best of equipment, the MRO, the CT scan, and all the heavy equipment. They can put all of that in place, and we can pay over a long period of time. I didn't let them finish. I said, look, if you can show me commitment that this can work with all those high-class equipment to support this, my people, I'm ready to put 1 billion naira down. They didn't ask for a down deposit. I said I will. Ask them, I have 1 billion in the account for this program.
Already?
Already. And they have also given us an offer to provide the 5 billion on top of the 1 billion to provide the 6 billion. The only reason they are here is that I find the offer unacceptable in terms of the interest rate, because the interest regime I find a bit difficult for me to swallow. Doing my calculation, I know that I don't want it to affect my salaries. Because of everything, in all of these projects I've mentioned, salary is #1 priority for me. Salary is what? My #1 priority. because I'm a son of a civil servant who retired as a civil servant, and I know what that salary in a month means. If there's nothing else I can do to honor my dad, is to make sure that no civil servant waits to the end of the month before he gets his salary. Since I came to office, almost 3 years today, I've never had reasons to wait to keep any person to the end of the month before the salary is paid.
Okay, we'll take a break, and when we return, we'll look more at some of your programs.
Are you 18 years and above? Have you registered with the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC? Do you have your permanent voter card, PVC? If your answer is yes, what about your family members, your friends, your colleagues, and your neighbors? Remember, your vote can guarantee a better future for Nigeria and Nigerians. Your vote can make all the difference. Your vote is your power. Don't sit on the fence. Be an active citizen. This is a signature show contribution to better citizen participation in governance.
Your Excellency, let's look at some specific projects that you are embarking on. Let's look at, for instance, the garment factory, which we've heard you say would employ about 3,000 people. How do you intend to push this? And I want to add, how do you want to sustain some of these projects?
The garment factory arose out of the understanding of the African Growth Opportunity Act, AGOA, which allows African fabrics and garments, 15% of them to get in with tax exemption. An opportunity that Africans have not exploited. So Chinese and the likes have come to set up in Ethiopia and the rest, exporting garments into the US in the name of AGOA. And so that created a gap and a consciousness for me to look into it deeply. Number two, it is the largest employer of labor. Today, the countries like Turkey and Bangladesh rely wholly, 40% of their employment is in the garment value chain. And here we are. What is even more exciting about the garment industry is a major employer of women. Women are known to be patient and can do one thing persistently, consistently, without getting bored. Men don't have that patience. And so the garment factory helps me to mop up a lot of widows. But again, the garment factory is no longer contemporary because it's not something I'm planning to do. It's not something we will soon do. It's something that is done, finished. It's not something that will create jobs. It has created the jobs already. So the 3,000, you go, you will see them, they are physically there. And we have others across. But again, is the failure and the frustrations of government. When we finished that garment factory, it was commissioned by the acting president then, as he then was, president, there as acting president then, Professor Sibanjo, and the Inspector General of Police, and the entire military command structure, and every single arm of government showed a lot of excitement. The Minister for Labor was here, gave very strong words of encouragement. And the understanding then was that the federal government was going to massively support the garment factory by using it as a training center for some of the young people in the Niger Delta. It was also going to use it to produce fabrics and start producing uniforms for army, immigration, customs, civil defense, the police, the NYSC, and the likes. Having waited infinitely, and that is not coming. But the luck we have is that other private organizations are coming, they are enormous. But the interesting thing, from this year, the entire Cross River State Carnival that used to spend over 700 million on costumes, all that is cut down because everything will be done in-house. Remember, having created about 3,000 jobs on the garment factory alone, we're now doing backward integration. We're going back to the northern part of the state. We've grown cotton in partnership with Arewa Textiles. Now, putting our yarn reels and jean reels to produce our own fabrics ourselves. So we are now going to have from farm to fashion. Do you know how many people that would have jobs in this value chain? That is the dream, that is the concept, It is already working. Now, how will I make it sustainable? It will only be sustainable because as the quality of the fabrics and sewing and tailoring improves, so also will the demand continue to improve. Today we're speaking with Gap, we're speaking with so many designers, including Diesel, including big people like Gucci, Armani, Roberto Cavalli, and the rest, who are willing to set up shops and manufacturing outlets out of Africa because today we have a garment factory. So what's my excitement? That the garment factory can stand on its own. In the event that I leave office, that I have to leave one day, definitely I will. Before I leave, I believe it will find its own feet. But the normal thing is that you cannot allow government to run businesses. Government can only catalyze it to existence, but you must evacuate it to private sector. So professionals are going to take over. Professional operators of garment factories, like Missouri of Italy, have come to do their own market sounding. They're hoping to take it over. A team, a tool out of India, I visited with them. They're coming here next week to look at it and give consideration. The Chinese firm, they're coming to give it consideration. So we hand it over to those operators and pull out government out, but ensure that the social benefit of creating jobs is sustained. And so I don't see where government, presence or absence from government will affect the garment factory, not at all.
You've come with the ultra-modern rice mill and, of course, the cocoa processing plant. Is it part of your dream to add value?
Now, what we do traditionally, let me take cocoa for want of time. We export our cocoa bean to Europe and the rest. And the largest manufacturers of chocolates don't have a tree, one single cocoa tree. Over 65% of world cocoa comes from Africa and Southern America. Shamefully, farmers farm in vain because the real people who make the money are those who add value to the cocoa bean. And so I thought around, Cross River State is the largest producer of cocoa today in Nigeria. Unfortunately, because our farmers farm in vain too. People come from other states, buy them and grade them as their state cocoa and carry the name of the other cocoa. Cross River has volcanic soil. And so our soil is naturally very rich. So our cocoa is organic. Because of that, we have a premium cocoa and perhaps rated as the best cocoa in the world. So what have I done? I've decided to put a world-class cocoa processing plant in Nicom, and then we're doing the chocolate bars out here in Calabar. So we're locking it down. We have a consumer control bill. We have a product control bill. So once we start producing our cocoa chocolate bars, we'll be exporting.
How soon can that be?
That's in a matter of 3-4 months from here, because all the equipment, again, I can talk and I give you the name of the company. Biola. Biola is a company that is like the Rolls Royce in the food processing industry. They are based out of Switzerland, Germany, and India. And we've been to all of that, and our cocoa is almost ready because all the machinery is fully paid for. They are on the ground. The rice part of it, we are producing the first vitaminized rice in Nigeria. Our rice plant already paid for, again, all done, construction completed, waiting for the arrival of equipment for installation. But for the seeds and seedling plant, all equipment arrived. Do you know that rice seeds, as a seed input supplier under the CPN Anchor Boras program, will make this state so rich? I have a budget of 1.3 trillion that I just signed into law. My calculation is very clear that from nothing so much can come. I'm a medallion of prosperity, and I allow a recovery space for myself. And I've budgeted 1.3 trillion. I have calculated what will come out of cocoa. I have created 3,000 hectares of land for the additional cultivation of cocoa to support the cocoa industry. For rice mill, we're having 3,000 young people who are going to the rice value chain. We have just gotten a deal of $5 million and another $170 million under the support from international and even federal government to support us on getting young people to go to the farm. So I introduced a program, food on the table, hands on the plow. So every young man must have at least 2 hectares of rice or cocoa. Today we have banana here in Ojupani. It is a major export earner because it's going to be earning you dollar. And so when CBN, and that's where I use the opportunity to praise Godwin Emefiele, who has aggressively supported the agri-value chain and say, once you are into anything that will bring in dollar, when it's not oil, non-oil exports, which is our recovery roadmap, obviously, federal government is there to support you. And I take the opportunity to appreciate the federal government for the support so far, particularly to Cross River State in this value chain, agriculture in particular, with emphasis on our rice and our cocoa. There's been a lot of support, and we're expanding, and the cumulative income from these 4 major outlets. Watch and see our poultry farm, which will be commissioned in December. All in, with our maize farm itself, having drip irrigation and fertigation system, which is an advanced technique on how to have optimal use of nutrient value, at the same time having optimal use of water. To deposit nutrients and water at the rhizosphere and rhizoplane of the roots, instead of allowing it to run to waste. That advanced technology, combined with my own understanding and my depth of knowledge, is helping the state to focus on that 1.3 trillion budget and say we will achieve it either by project value, completion values, in addition with the inputs that all these various investments will bring. But definitely, this is not a state that puts premium on low-hanging fruits, because low-hanging fruits, they are the first to rot, so they are the last to be plucked, and they are only due for elections. But true value comes from a deep reflection and deep investment on long-term things. Look at the China philosophy. If you want to develop a people, you must first start with the infrastructure, industries. Listen to the words that was used in very clear terms by Bill Gates, that no nation will prosper without roads, ports, and factories. And the prosperity of a nation can only be manifest when their people are prosperous. So creating jobs for these young people, putting factories, putting roads and ports, is as if Bill Gates saw my template, my development template. Because my master's in business administration is development economics. My PhD work was focused on industrial effluent management in developing countries. My law background focused on poverty management. And so I have a vast combination. You know, when you have an understanding of humanity, when you have taken law, risen above equity, risen far away from common law, and you are at the level of jurisprudence and beyond, you become more philosophical. You begin to ask yourself, why were you made governor by God? Why not for this your 4 years? Why not you leave your name in the sands of time? You can steal all the money, it will still end one day. Physical body, dead bodies. We are all potential dead bodies. I bet you and I were born equal. Naked infants crying for, asking, helping, looking for succor. And at death, we are all dead bodies. So what happens between birth and death doesn't matter if you have the same starting point and the same ending point. The death stayed dumb. After death comes silence. No matter what your theory and philosophy is, there's the tourism, the metaphysics, and all religious teachings vary with your upbringing, with your exposure, with your contact. But the fundamental reality is that the death stays still. And so if you know that this life is nothing, why wear something much more expensive where a simpler thing can do? We can make this life much easier. We're just organics, just waiting to rot and be part of the fertilizer. We are just in a biogeochemical cycle. Let's slow down. Nigeria, we're too much in a haste. We're overconsumed by politics. I have never on any social platform seen somebody discuss optics, discuss thermodynamics. I have never seen anything intellectual. It has to be something immoral, dirty, denigrating fellow human beings. Look at our newspapers. Look at you. Just watch the TV. You would think, if you're a foreigner, you come into this country and you just turn a Nigerian television, read our newspapers, you would think that you are in a danger zone. Please, we're human beings. It can't be always dangerous topics. How can a country run like this? Where's the education?
Your Excellency, let's end by going to that industry that Cross River State is known for, tourism. What have you done in the tourism sector?
there was a misconception of tourism. As a state and as a people who were the first to embrace the white people, the first place to have a plane land in Nigeria. So classically and proudly too, we as Cross-Riverians, we see ourselves as the most civilized people, the most civilized state indeed, in our class, in our conduct, in our courage, where truly we have the panache and the elegance. So that verve and that arrogance of our aroma allows us the luxury of feeling that tourism is where we belong because we have clean, green cities. But truly, truly, there is no way tourism in the midst of poverty can be sustainable. In tourism principle, 80% of your patronage has to be local. So if I build a hotel in Calabar, I should expect that I have families in Calabar who move out of their homes by weekend to come and spend time in the hotel. So if you look at a state that is predominantly civil servants, and then you are looking at tourism, you have not done the right combination. And so no matter what investment you put, it will run into a trophy. Senescence will set in and it will electrify and die off. And so no matter how much you put in tourism, also that you are in a boundary, an international boundary, where there's a lot of tension, you definitely have to do much more. You have to first densify and create an economy that is robust enough that can support and sustain tourism. So what have I done? To underpin tourism with pillars of development by industrializing it and creating roads and superhighway that can stabilize the state before you think of tourism. If you have not eaten, you cannot start thinking of going for pleasure. So the primordial and primitivistic instinct of man is food first. And so what I have decided, go back to agriculture, send young men to the field, let them get rich by virtue of the fact that they have 2-3 hectares of land from where government is serving as an organic off-taker and takes off all their product, put money in their pocket, then they have disposable income from where they can now enjoy tourism. Please, please, it's very clear to me that by character and by attitude, we have the best conduct to be a tourism state, but some bit of patience under Governor AYADE's regime for us to properly put the right institutional structures that can allow tourism to thrive. And that's why we're setting up Las Vegas. Las Vegas is going to be the most beautiful city in the world. It is an island of the Twin Island. It is an island close to the Parrot Island, right here in the city of Calabar. That we've completed the design with Ranzi Piano of Italy, one of the consultants to Ranzi Piano of Italy. And the design is ready, and you're going to see real tourism. And actually, we're also designing a new route for a special bullet car that doesn't exist in the whole world. Great ambition, great dream, great aspirations. Sometimes I wish I was running a state that was a little more enabled. Because I'm driven by so much ambition, yet handicapped by the challenges of my time. Recognizing that if I didn't have this greater will, because the role of leadership is to inspire confidence and hope in the followers. When the followers lose that, as Cross-Riverians, I always, like we're in the month of April, the salary for April will come together with the salary of May, because the 1st of May is Workers' Day. Let them go home with plenty of money. Today, they riot and fight and say the salaries are coming too early in Cross River. In a country where other states are protesting that salaries are not coming, in Cross River, if I pay, I used to pay on the 15th, on the 13th of the month. And I have people protesting, rioting, going to TV and say, AYADE, stop paying our salary too early. We will run out of money. That's the confidence I've instilled in my people. When I had a major town hall meeting in Obudu Cattle Ranch, and I said, let us agree on a date for salary. And I offered 15th of the month. There was a thunderous no. 17th, thunderous no. 20th, thunderous no. 25th, there was a division. Everybody said from 28th. That is the confidence they have in their governor that their salary must come. In which states where workers will say, no, hold the salary. Because they trust me. They know me. Before I became governor, AYADE's name is known. For personal wealth, born out of creativity. I've never been a trader. I always sold knowledge. It is the intellect that drives the world. Finally, compare the price of a phone and a bag of rice. A small virtual phone, you'll be looking at $5,000. You'll be looking at a small phone, 3 million naira. And you see a humongous bag of rice, 50 kg, 20,000 naira. That tells you that anything you do with the muscle, with physical cash, with energy, is of no value. But things you do with the intellect, they're of higher value. The phone is technology. Rice is manual energy of farming and cultivating through a long period. And you produce these phones in thousands. Because the silicon chip is what black man doesn't know. So the white man, even though it costs nothing, puts a premium on it. Knowledge is the future. It's a knowledge-based economy. In as much as we don't focus on knowledge, that we continue to export in this primitivistic manner, Africa will continue to be backward, and Nigeria will remain a source of fear, worry, and concern. And the press and reporting must change to reflect the true need. Don't even talk about power, because I already know that with all the industries I've set in place, you need power. That's why we've set up 21 megawatts power plant. Please check my income as Cross River State government. Subtract the income from salaries and check the things you are going to go and see today, whether it's possibly anywhere else that you can have those kind of investment in 2 years plus. I'm not 3 years yet. That you can have 3 factories completed, over 7 under construction, 1 local government, 1 factory. And most of the factories, even people in my government, apart from the ESCO that knows that we have made approvals or made payment, they are not aware that most factories are still coming. The machinery to produce all the piles for the deep sea port have arrived on airport. So this deep sea port that they think is theory, they don't know that the equipment and all the infrastructures to build them, the machineries have arrived. That is the capacity of the mind. When you put your soul above your problem, your body will follow.
Restructuring. APC says it's through federalism. In summary, what does restructuring mean to you?
We are Nigerians. And I believe that by any contraption that we have become a country, we have a responsibility as human beings. First, that humanity in us should ask you, what can I do so that every one of us can live in comfort and in plenty, so that strife and tension in society will go down? Or what value do you have when I have crude oil in the ground in my state and I'm waiting indefinitely to God knows when I can have an opportunity to exploit it? When solar is overtaking crude oil, very soon this oil will be a thing of the past. And so through restructuring, in my perspective, is the restructuring of government that allows each of the federating units the full opportunity to exploit her potential to the best of her capacity, while also making adequate provision to provide a compensation mechanism and a survivalist structure for any of our sister states or one of the component of federating units in number that do not have as much. And therefore, I do not accept a restructuring which is about resource control, but more of resource management. I support a restructuring that provides an opportunity for each state to be the very best it can, but must provide an accommodation for a weaker state. I support a restructuring that does not focus on what the things that divide us, but on the things that unite us. It's a complex philosophy that requires a deeper analytical explanation for you to appreciate the thin line and the point of contact and separation between the agitations for resource control and agitation for restructuring. To me, indeed, the amalgamation of Nigeria to what it is should bring a cumulative overall benefit for us as a bigger nation, which gives us the bigger muscle. It is just a question of how to manage us better. But more importantly, we need to restructure the political calculation to ensure that this tension and this our style of democracy changes. Turn back and look at all the young generation coming behind us. Immediately a man is out of school, he's already thinking of how to go into politics, because he has only seen only House of Reps or senators or governors that parade money. So industry, hard work, research is sacrificed on the altar of cheap banalities of quick wealth, fast politics. On its own, without reference to regional restructuring, political restructuring is key. And that restructuring of attitude. We must deal with those first, because no matter how you restructure by constructing physical divides between us on regional basis, the smaller regions will go and then realize that they also require another internal restructuring. So there's a bigger restructuring that is required, which is more philosophical. Attitudinal change, education of the mind, the Kantianism of integrity and ethics, the morality that we reintroduce civics into our primary school education, and bring quality training, and bring a purer and a more humane person. When a child watches a plane crash and run to the scene to salvage and pick from a victim, that nation is dead. When you see the decadence that has occurred, the anthropological slide that has occurred, the senescence of all our values in the course of time, it's obvious that this country is heading for a real disaster. That's the restructuring that I seek. To reorient our young people, to put more emphasis on value over money.
Your Excellency, I think this is a beautiful way to end the program. And I must thank you for your time and your insights.
Thank you so very much.
And I've been speaking with the governor of Cross River State, Professor Ben AYADE. And it has been the signature show. I am VINMARTIN, OBIORA, ILO. Thanks for watching.